Greetings to everyone. Welcome to year 2025. I wish you all a fantabulous 2025, and I'm sure my guest Hrushikesh also will be wishing the same and more to all of you. There has been a gap, but we are back to do as much we can do for the CX community. And today we have yet another episode of Catalyst X CX conversation with hand-picked, seasoned, and most importantly, passionate CX professionals. And today I have Hrushikesh Kulkarni. I'll address him as Hrushikesh, with me. And we have been knowing each other for some time. But I think for some reason we kept chatting but never got to talk to each other. And here we come. We have an opportunity to do this conversation for the benefit of, I believe, me first, both of us, and then for the larger audience, you all. So have a great time, and I'll try to introduce Rishikesh a little from what I know him, and he has straddled a lot of roles. I see that he started with market research, which is a very interesting space. A lot rides on market research. You all would agree. Consumer insights, yet one more powerful space. Not just these, he also has been a faculty, which is something I dream of someday being one. And also, I see he's also been an XM scientist. So we have a lot that we can gain from this conversation. I'm sure about it. So before we jump in, I would request welcome to the session, Rishikesh. Thanks a lot for accepting the invite.
Thank you so much. And as you rightly said, a very happy new year to all our audience. It's good to be on the show.
Yeah, great. And before we get into the questions or exploration, would you like to share a little about yourself so the audience gets to know you better?
Sure. Thanks. Right. So to start with, I have done my graduation in mathematics. So you will see when, Kiran was mentioning about the love for numbers in terms of research or consumer insight, that's where naturally it comes from. And then I have done my master's in the marketing management, worked for, I would say, around 20 now, mostly in customer experience. And while I were to look at, kind of rewinding back all these years, I feel that's right. Most of my experience has been with banking, BFSI, which is typically your insurance, NBFCs, a bit of, I would say, education sector also on a research and consulting side, and a majority of it in automobile and e-commerce, because that's where, the clients really want to know what's the sentiment or the pulse of the customer. So that's more about me. And as you rightly said, currently working as a XM scientist with a Qualtrics partner network. And the idea is to kind of share my advisory services under that umbrella with different clients that we have. So that's a quick about me.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot for that in-depth introduction, Rishikesh. Reflecting upon what you said, maths and me, not great friends, though I have spent a lot of time in the Six Sigma space, purely because, as you mentioned, for the good of the organizations, for the greater good. Well, let's put it that way. So that's with that, let's jump into the very first one. For the starters, so we start from where it all began. How did you get introduced to the CX arena or ecosystem?
Wow. Just thinking back, I think those days when I started my career, I would go back to 2004 or so. We had most of the research or consulting work happening around, I would say, brand, because brand equity, brand management were hot topics, and I think they still continue to remain. There's no debt to it for sure. But yeah, most of the money was on brand tracks, brand health measurements, or it would be advertising tracking, some bit of it even for the pricing studies and so on. So I think my first exposure was to a small study that we did where it was more about customer satisfaction and loyalty, because I'm talking about the 2004-2005 era when NPS was yet to be introduced. So that's where, I had my first exposure to a client who just wanted to understand for their entire gamut of retail operations span country, what is that one number score, right? So, and I think that fascinated me, and that began my journey into CX. So that's where I can think of now. And then, of course, across the year, different bosses, different brands helped me understand the nitty-gritties of CX, and I think it's been a team effort after that, right?
I think one thing stands out in all these conversations is the entry point for CX. I think is very unique for everyone. I have
Yeah.
rarely ever seen something, the entry point to CX repeating between two professionals. I think
Oh,
also the
I see.
beauty around it of how you get introduced to it when the time comes.
Hmm.
Fantastic. So with
Interesting. Yeah.
that kind of a uh, entry point and getting into the CX space, now having spent, I would say probably sweet 16 years in this space, today, if I may, what is CX to you today, if you reflect?
Well, I think CX is, as per my opinion, CX is all about creating some remarkable memories. That's where I look at CX. Of course, there are so many definitions or so many thoughts of wisdom there, saying it could be all about the different interactions you have, or how does a brand make you feel at the end of the day. Those kind of definitions very much. But I feel that I mean, let's take example of this discussion we are having today, right? Not that every line, every sentence, somebody would capture it, right? It's more about how we make them feel around the course of, let's say, next half an hour, 35 minutes, 40 minutes that we are going to talk. So I think it's all about creating those remarkable experiences, and everybody is talking about the human centered approach, right? It's no more that we kind of look at a particular customer as a policy number in the system, or a account number for a bank, or a mobile number. I mean, yes, those are unique fields, but more it is about how can I be human centric and create those remarkable memories so that they remember something really nice about me over the years. I think that's what I would sum it up saying that's what CX is to me.
Fantastic. I think it so much summarizes the word experience and what you are sharing. Remarkable, you mentioned. Also, I would like to add memorable, personalized. And for example, long ago, I remember seeing a bank ad which mentioned you are not issued a number, the bank account number. And they were rather
Great.
saying you will select a number. And some banks
Wow.
went ahead and even offered the option, many banks still do, where you
Mhm.
select the username. And your username
Yes.
is not just a number. And there are still
Hmm.
some banks where the username is issued by them and it is a number. So I think the
Yes.
remarkable, while both serve the same purpose, my
Absolutely.
recall will be much better if it is a name, username I chose versus a number
True.
issued by someone and the sense of connection with it. So I think it's a
Absolutely. I
space.
feel I feel so personalized for my needs that I feel wow, so that's great. Great.
I think the space has evolved a lot, and I think there is no end point. It will continue to evolve while staying glued on to the customer, their wish list, expectations, and which keep rising. So I think that's
Absolutely.
where we all can
A very
contribute.
dynamic world. So I'm sure it will keep rising. It is for people like us to anticipate it. Absolutely. Well said.
Yes, yes, amazing, amazing. It feels very positive when you soak into that space. Okay, so with that, let's move to the next one. So if you start looking at a little larger canvas, so with the experience that you had so far, in your view, how do you see teams and eventually organizations leverage CX, or how they can better leverage CX? Any specifics? Welcome.
Yeah, sure. I think one area where I have seen some development happening, still not at a very great pace, but I'm sure it's picking up, is where teams have started realizing that working in silos isn't helping much,
Hmm.
and that's the culture where we are talking about driving a customer-centric culture. If I have to drive that culture, then it could be, I mean, just for the namesake, I'm taking names of various teams or departments like marketing, finance, it could be HR, it could be, if it's a manufacturing, maybe the production, legal. They all have realized what HR is trying to say is that to have maybe I'll stick to the term I said, remarkable experience for our customers. It's
Mm.
first important that our employees have a great experience. They in turn translate it into a great experience for the end customer. So to happen that, I need data, right? And I think that's where the democratization of data has started happening. Rather than working in silos, I see that my colleagues or even some of the clients we service, their colleagues do appreciate and understand the fact that if data is openly shared, of course, within those boundaries of, you will, of course, think about how much data to kind of share with the front office staff, how much for the strategy team.
Yeah.
That's one trend I see in people shaping up. Yeah.
I think fantastic. As you mentioned, I think I'll also like to emphasize
Mhm.
no more will it any organization or team can achieve success if they work in silos. I think that has been proven time and again. And luckily, most of the organizations have given up on working in silos, and even team members stopped seeing value in being in a silo or being part of a silo or promoting a silo. I think that's a big no-no space. I think in the end, if teams and organizations can have that one goal, let's say customer lifetime value maximization, and with a delighted customer, obviously that can never be maximized without a delighted customer. I think then the larger goal of the organization is met. Probably also the larger goal of the customers is also met. So it's a
Absolutely. I echo
massive.
your thoughts.
I think past teaches us, and past and present also teaches us so many lessons how we can be better tomorrow.
Very good.
Okay. So with that, let's step into the next one. Today, customer experience and technology are almost
Mm.
inseparable. So what do you see as the possibilities that can be made, you can say real, happen for CX using technology? And do you see any limit to this kind, you can say, a combination, or you can say the ideal combination of CX and tech?
Right. Maybe I'll touch upon the limitation first because that's a little easy. Technology, as you rightly said, because advantages are huge. But in terms of limitation, I think the only limit I see, and there are some workarounds over it, saying that for every CX initiatives that I am taking, what is the ROI on it? If I can prove that, then I can get unlimited budget, I would say, for my technology needs or technology enhancement, or it could be a new vendor partner that I'm looking at. So I think that's the only disadvantage. But again, there are so many CX experts, maybe better off than both of us, who have proved the ROI, how you can calculate it, and with due respects to them, they have done an amazing job.
Yeah.
But yeah, if technology. One major shift that we have seen maybe in the last 5, 6 years is more focusing on real-time insights from the customer. I
Mm.
mean, you touched upon what the customer wants or what are their needs. Gone are the days when I started my traditional market research and we used to collect data only for a month, analyze it for another 2 weeks with data processing. I remember working late nights on SPSS and those packages, statistical packages. Now you can, even with the click of a mouse, do sentiment analysis. You can do regression just to have a 2 by 2 metrics telling me what's important from the customer's point of view and how am I as a brand performing. So technology has made so much of decision making easier, faster, and precise that the human intervention is not needed, right? We as people are more needed in the action part. So I think technology has been a great enabler there. I also feel that along with technology, some things like I remember for one of the client, we did a wholesale, I would say, understanding of their churn prediction. So typically we looked at the invoicing data. When do they bill? Do they play on the last day, or is it that they make payments well in advance? What is their pattern that they were, because this is a telecom giant, right? So it was more to understand if their monthly RPU, ARPU, as it is said, but kind of drops over a period of time, or does it go up?
Mm.
What are their ratings at different feedback mechanisms? What is their behavior in terms of complaints over a contact center? So everything put together, we made a very robust churn prediction model telling a customer, not a generic thing saying 20% of your customers are expected to churn. No, we told them, identified saying customer number 1, 7, and 155. They are the three who are going to churn out. So So now a brand can do a lot of, I would say, differential service interventions to kind of adhere to something more than their protocols and ensure that they don't churn out. So maybe I'm elaborating on just one example that comes to my mind, but there are so many things like sentiment analysis. There is real-time digital transformation that technology has helped us. That's why I said, let me start with the disadvantages because I can just see the budget being a constraint until I don't convince my dear friend, Mr. CFO. Otherwise, I don't see I think the sky is the limit for us to enable technology to better deliver customer experiences.
Absolutely. I think it, as you share this detail, it comes to my mind that 20 years ago, calculating the ROI was almost impossible for several things done in the marketing budgets and the similar space. I think the
Absolutely.
team members and all departments needs to be appreciative of the progress we made. Today, a lot of tech has enabled a very good estimate, if not accurate, with the highest accuracy on ROI, which is music to the ears of finance team. And for the larger good of the organization, where are we investing? Are we investing in the right place? I think we as humans, I think we have been big time beneficiaries of evolution of tech, no denial. And I think tech also should be identified as the greatest enabler. Just that I think one always has to be conscious that tech doesn't come first. The CX or
Absolutely.
whatever the subject we are talking comes first. Tech becomes the great enabler. So that was why I was kind of quickly Googling. If you carry a hammer and you look around, everything looks like a nail. So I think one should not take the extremes and keep the focus on what we are trying to achieve. In this case, it is exceptional, memorable, remarkable customer experience, and then the rest will fall in place. And wherever tech can make the journey convincing for all stakeholders, particularly finance, I think that's wonderful. They should work together. So I think, as you said, yes, there is no limit, but just that we need to get not get trapped in the limitations we keep in our mind to what this combination can do or should do.
True, true. I mean, you started our discussion by saying I'm also a faculty or a trainer. And that's the advice even give to students when they come and ask me, which tool I learn? Is Jupyter better or is a Tableau better? And I say, look, those are tools, right? Technology is going to make your life much easier than an Excel over these tools because they are data visualization or analytics tools. But after all, what you rightly said, it's the human who's going to do the thinking and the servicing for each other, right? The technology is just going to make my life easier. That's so well said.
Absolutely,
True.
absolutely. Real time, and it's giving us so much more ammunition and giving us more time in our hand to do things that are good for all.
More value add. Absolutely.
I think that naturally brings us to the very next question, which is I think, the flavor of the season. So today, no
Mhm.
discussion obviously can be complete without talking about AI. So
Okay.
let's look at the pair of CX and AI. And
Mhm.
where do you see we are today on this journey from what you sense? And where do you see this journey taking all of us? CX,
Oh, great.
AI.
Hmm. Right. I think that's the most critical question of our discussion because yep, where is AI heading or even where is Gen AI heading? And I personally feel that a lot of smartness has come into the way of doing things. For example, let me take a very quick example that I
Yep, yep.
remember that where I was working for a large automobile client sometime in 2004 again. I mean, just going back in history, how things have changed. And I remember we used to have a pen and paper 40 minutes interview with truck drivers. And I did volunteer to conduct some myself. And the easiest way to tap them was to sit
Mhm.
at the petrol pumps outside the city on the main highways so that
Or to
you,
catch
you
them.
get that PT, right? Absolutely. Then you kind of convince them, request them, beg them, plead them, whatever, whatever. Yeah. But from that time now, coming back to a real time more where first we kind of tried to do it with a telephone based understanding of the customer's experience, and then we now have more of a
Mhm.
link base where I can just tell you, hello sir, you had a recent transaction with our, let's say, a hotel, and how did the dinner go? We want to ask you quick 4 or 5 questions, right? Replacing from that 40 minutes face to face to a more online. So I think going ahead, what I'm already seeing what AI is doing is that I don't even need to intrude into the privacy of the customer to ask these questions. Most of the research we are doing is even getting replaced by what is already available. So there's so much of data already there on social media. I can tap into that with my algorithms that I write in AI. I can understand what are the themes out there or the sentiment. What are the sub themes? Is it a response which is very positive or just positive? Is it something negative? Right? I can even link it to some hot alerts saying that if words like frustrated, angry, I didn't expect this out of the brand, etc., or this happens every time, I can even shoot an email trigger to somebody, let's say like me, who's into customer service or customer experience enhancement, and I can have a ticketing system just to ensure that because I'm a human, I might forget that, oh, there are 10 complaints that have come today or 10 negative mentions on the social media. The ticketing system will prompt me every 4 hours, have you finished it? If not, gets escalated to my boss, right? I don't want a sorry face in front of my boss. So I think where I have spent just half an hour to talk to a truck driver, coming to now AI, everything is on my laptop, right? That's all I need, a laptop and a good internet connection. And AI is going to enable most of it for us, saying that what is it that customers are already saying, right? There are so many examples I see where contact center, which is call center, I would say communications is converted into a transcript, which is typically your voice to text. And then the text analytics or the text sentiment actually tells me what is the first, I mean, CX is little later, maybe from a business perspective. What is the first reason or the second reason topmost why they're calling us? How can we educate them through some FAQs or some bots we can feed this? Wow. I mean, I don't even need to call up the contact center next time. It will be very much available on my bot, right? So I mean, just quickly touched upon a few that came to my mind, but there's so much that AI can do and make things simpler, faster, cheaper for a brand, and more convenience and at the time when they want it, right? For a customer. So I think both
Yeah.
by saying AI and CX.
I think I'll pick the last one, what you just said, simpler, faster, and cheaper. And I think that brings the power into the hands of all the small businesses, because that's usually a limitation, right? We talk about, oh, this tool is great, wonderful, but it is expensive, not something a small business can afford. And with the advent of digital marketing and the recent tools in the last 10 years, small businesses are able to sit in their store. I have a travel agent who doesn't outsource any of the work. It has become so
Hmm.
simple that he does it
Wow.
everything himself. I wrote a review. Within the next 5 minutes, he showed me that on his portal, because he learned and he is able to handle this by himself. So it's become brings the power and benefits to the
Hmm.
larger audience. And also, you pointed out, I was scribbling text
Absolutely.
analytics, how sharp text analytics have become. I remember my first job, 2004, I was the quality analyst in 2005 or somewhere. And I used to call these 15 associates for feedback after doing a sample audit. Today, you don't have to, it's automated. There is a word cloud. Text analytics will tell you what is the overall sentiment of the calls that Kiran has taken today, and particularly it can go to that customer's call back, call after call after call, which means over a period of time, is this relationship getting better or this relationship getting worse? I think, and what
Absolutely.
can be done is amazing. As you just said, we are now leaving, probably going to leave the weightlifting and the hard work and toil to AI, so that we are left at the driver's seat of action planning, execution, and fine tuning, which can't get better than that, right? So I think the fear that AI will probably take away job, yes, the landscape will be different. I think no two ways. Every time a technology, a new thing has come, the landscape changed, evolved. I think the fear of that it will lead to a lot of losses, I think, is a separate subject to be dealt. Rather, we can see how the ones who can embrace AI can benefit themselves personally, professionally, benefit their organization, and I'm sure there'll be still remaining plenty for all. Okay, anyway, that subject is for a discussion some
Right.
other.
I mean, just to quickly touch upon what you rightly said, the focus on the skills and job will change because if we go
Yeah.
back to our parents' generation, right, there was something known as shorthand. That was replaced by typewriters, and then typewriters we both are in different countries, and now we have laptops to communicate, right? So the skill sets change, but not that everybody's lost their job, right? Because they don't know shorthand now. I mean, we evolve, we are all dynamic, so
And
absolutely,
and the
we would be
cycle
looking at
repeats.
different skill sets.
Yeah, they say human nature, first fear, then denial, then acceptance, then embrace, then flourish. I think it's just a cycle that will again going to repeat, no doubt about it. Okay,
Absolutely.
wonderful. This was a great question. As usual, it was around AI, so it has to be. So with that, let's move to the next one. This can be much more, you can say, engrossing for me as well as the audience because I see it around storytelling. So examples are almost like storytelling. So any two brands, I would say pick up any. It's a known brand, unknown brand. If it's an unknown, it's great. The world will get to know. By your experience, who stood out as a benchmark in customer experience? Any two.
Well, there are so many brands in the market, so it gets difficult to pick two. But still, I'll pick up one. I don't know if I mentioned during my introduction, but a major part of CX I got exposure when I was working for MNC Bank in Singapore. So that's one. While the bank was doing a great stuff, but every time I used to come back to my home country, which is India, I used to travel through Changi Airport, and I think that remains in my mind because there were so many things they had thought through. And this is almost a decade back, right? I've been tracking because you love a brand and you become passionate about them. So I've been tracking what they are doing even till 2025. But if I go back 10, 11 years in time, they had nice looking smileys just placed outside every restroom, saying that no questions, but how is your experience there? And every time there is a red button pressed or a sad looking face, it immediately used to trigger to the janitor, and then they kind of go and then they look at what's happened and they clean it, right? uh, Small example, but great. When I'm waiting at those 2 hours 3 hours for my international flight, I want to have the best of ambience as possible, or the infrastructure there. Then comes, of course, the customer experience. I mean, the basic was very much looked after Changi. Look at the places in Changi Airport, which is now developed, whether you say 2 3 T2 T3. I have seen so many of not only the tourists but the local Singaporeans also going an hour in advance just because they want to enjoy that infrastructure, the various food and the retail outlets, take selfies, put it on Instagram. I mean, we all talk about, rather than a brand advertising, if I have brand advocates, they are going to talk positively about me and spread a positive word of mouth. That's why when you said two brands, the first that came to my mind is Changi, because I think they have done a kits there. The other brand that I have been using for the last, I would say, 4 5 months is a quick grocery delivery app that I use, which is Zepto. Here in India, it is famous. I don't know your part of the city or town if you have heard about it, but what it does is
Heard about the brand
it
a
gives a
lot.
typical promise of 10 to 15 minutes. Oh, great. So it gives 10 to 15 minutes delivery promise. And what I like is just the convenience. Whenever I've been on the app, never has that happened that this particular product is out of stock, or this particular
Mm.
SKU size I want for 250 ml of some liquid. No, we have only 1 liter. Buy in bulk. No, nothing. You are the customer. They actually treat me like a king. So I think these two examples have remained in my mind, where, Changi Airport, I would again, even if I'm going to Australia, rather than going to some other airport, I would prefer to take a halt at Changi. And of course, for a weekly or a bi-weekly ordering that, my family pings me, when you are in the middle of some office work, also you are on Zepto, you finish it. And in fact, they have a voice enabled thing also. So I don't even have to type saying, I'm looking for a
Amazing.
pack of
That's
chips.
amazing.
I just voice it and it picks up, and it shows me different brands under it. So Kiran, just to share, I think these two are the brands that, of all the good brands that are there, I can think of for our discussion today.
I can't wait to start on the example what you just shared about the by voice. Amazing, because I'm hearing it for the first time, though I'm familiar with this brand. Senior citizens, they are not tech experts. They would just love to leave a noise. Gentlemen, I need A, B, C, D, E, this much grammage and so on. That's it. They would love it. So I'm very happy to hear something like this, because often we see tech, sometimes what is churned out is difficult even to me. Then I wonder, if it is difficult to me, what about that large set of audience who are not even as tech familiar? That thing, no mistake of theirs. They are that. It's my job to serve them in a manner that serves, supports them. And as you mentioned about Zepto, one more example, I'll go to the Changi airport after. Not in stock is something I get so annoyed when I hear. You go to a pizza place, you ask for this. No. Actually went with friends to a place and we were having tea. The kid does not, obviously, they have not yet started having tea. So the parent asked hot chocolate. They said not available. I like, hot chocolate not available. Because that's probably the simplest thing from a packing point of view, which should be there. And by the way, this is a very popular brand here in Dubai, so I will not take the name. It's a famous coffee place. So it was shocking to hear, and I'm very delighted to hear that not in stock. They made sure it is not, because it would be unintentional, but the customer will perceive that was intentional. Whatever the customer perceives is real. And treat me like a king.
Honest, how much of competition, if out of stock, or the SKU I want, or the size is not, 3 4 times I'll be fine. I also
You will
empathize
switch.
with the brand X person. Absolutely,
You will
I will
switch.
switch. Right, there is not only monopoly anywhere, any
Absolutely.
sector now. So there are so many apps talking, and then they're covering the full page or ads in a newspaper. We
Yeah.
all are aware of the brand, so you're correct.
They got their back end right. That's pretty sharp. And so great to see a very young brand achieving that kind of excellence, which kind of reminds me of an Amazon standards. And the airport part you said, I was reflecting upon DXB here, though unfortunately I'm not at experienced Changi Airport. I would look forward to DXB Airport. Anytime you go, you like amazing. That's the feeling of that airport, and you build a connection with the airport. You just mentioned, resonated the same thing. You fall in love with that brand. And now once you love that brand, scribbling, you advocate, you defend them, and you patronize them. That's it. So that means every given opportunity you fly through that airport, which is good for the airport. That's revenue. So I think these two airports definitely have set the bar very high. And as you said, that's a very nice way of low tech, high touch. We use that in PMI. The you press not happy at the restroom after the visiting it. It
For
goes
visiting.
alerting the janitor and the team is amazing way that someone expressed disappointment. Let me go check if everything is in order while the schedule will be there. So I think this
Yeah,
is how you can use simple tech to make the workplace much efficient. And similar to that, here we have in Dubai also, I witnessed here that happiness index. They're so
mm,
particular about. You go to metro, you go to any government office, you will find
I
those
see.
buttons and you just
Right.
press. And every year they have awards for whichever department, whichever government agency which has secured the highest
Wow.
scores and highest improvement in that year. So it talks about their
It's
commitment to the.
recognition also, for your efforts. That's awesome.
I, I think then we'll have to do a separate episode on this question particularly, because this
Right.
storytelling and the sharing of examples are so passionate to each of us. I think there's no end to it. We'll keep going on and on and on. Okay, with that, in the interest of time, let's come back to the next question. CX as an area of focus and mastery is gradually gaining. I wouldn't say it's rocking. I'll be very humble and honest. It is picking up momentum, and I think brands are starting to, all successful brands have recognized, and many more are recognizing what CX can offer to them.
Mm.
So, from your 16 plus, or actually total 20 plus years of experience and a lot in the CX space, what would be your words of wisdom to the CX professionals and the wannabe CX professionals? I'm bringing back that point. The entry point is unique to each of them. What would be your words of wisdom to the CX professionals and the wannabes?
Well, I think as a CX practitioner, yeah, I wouldn't say either of us are experts, but yeah, I think
Absolutely.
practitioner
Learners for
is a
life.
right term. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I think what I have seen and what has helped reshape my career, in fact, is the curiosity part. So I've never been complacent saying that if this worked for brand ABC, or if this worked in 2024 May, high chances it should work today also. If we do that, then I think it's more of a copy paste job, which we don't want to. We want to evolve. So I think the curiousness should always be there. And I think I get that being a researcher, because every time we used to ask those probing questions to the client saying, fine, you are looking at this kind of research or consulting work, but have you even thought of what is happening at your retail outlet? Have you thought of how the online payment is? Maybe these hypotheses also you should test. So my idea is that, or to share some thoughts with our fellow colleagues, is that you always be curious. If you feel that something is really working, still do a A/B testing. Let me try this out for week number 1 in Jan. Let me see what are the numbers, what are the KPIs I get. Uh, Week 2, let me try the option B. Maybe I feel option A is better, but wow, I see option B, I'm getting lesser leads, but higher quality of leads, from my digital marketing, let's say, team. So I think always it's all about, being curious in your approach. I would put it that way.
That's a wonderful point. You nailed it sharp with a very simple word, curiosity. Can't emphasize more. If I try to reflect upon it, it's one of the most, you can say, ROI attribute if one was to embrace. And the easiest way, I think, what would I be my 3 to 5 year old younger self? All children are curious. So I think if you are able to embrace curiosity and be that version of self, definitely one would do very well in the customer experience space. You step out, you see so much of CX all around us. Every touch point with you, with the surroundings, with others also can be a great, you can say, touch points to learn from. The only other two I recall is being authentic. Being
Mm,
authentic is the best way. Initial journey may be little roller coaster, but being authentic, I think, is the best way to get the best out of oneself.
abs-
And we continue to put our tacit knowledge, the past experience, to the good of current and future. And be cautious. You mentioned that you already raised the flag on with a word of caution. What worked yesterday may not work today. And acknowledge that the landscape is continuously evolving, and in fact the speed of evolution of the landscape is only getting faster. I think we take all these into be mindful of all of this. I'm sure one who wants to enter this space will do wonders, will do great for good for themselves and the community and the CX ecosystem. And the existing professionals, I'm sure, would have half of these lessons already under their belt. Thanks a lot, Rishikesh, for the insights and inputs. So with that, we come to the end of this conversation. And I can confess, I had a lot to take home from this conversation, which is usually the case. And this one is very unique and special. And that too, because after some gap, doing these episodes.
I can
As
assure the
audience,
feeling.
yeah.
I
And
always
as
learn
you're,
from you.
yeah.
Yep. So that's it.
And as audience, we are sure, and I'm sure Rishikesh is also sure that you guys did had a bag full and a basket full. And feel free to play it again. That's the benefit of these episodes. You can watch it once again. You can share it with your friends in the community who you feel would benefit from watching this conversation. And if you liked it, please go ahead, hit that like button as a vote of appreciation, and not forget to subscribe so that whenever the next episode comes up, it
Yeah.
comes to you as a notification. The best way to get to know without working for it. So with that, we come to the end of this conversation. And a big thanks to Rishikesh for taking time out and joining in for this conversation. Thanks a lot, Rishi.
Thank you so much. You're most welcome. And I must appreciate that you have been a great host, because the way you kind of, were summarizing my points, that also gives a good amount of, I would say, idea for me to build up on the next thought. So thanks to you for being an amazing host,
Yeah.
and great job you're doing for all of us.
Yeah, the feeling is mutual, Rishi. And as you know, this I learned from during the first interview that you just don't ask the questions and leave it there. When you are
Mm.
into the conversation, you reflect upon it, you share your little thoughts, so that the focus remains still on the guest and make it that conversation much more fruitful for the entire audience, and in the process also benefit from it. So great going. Once again, sometime in the future, we'll pick up another topic and come back for the benefit of the audience and the CX community. For now, all the best to all of you as audience, and have a fantabulous, still January. So have a fantabulous 2025. And you, I'm sure, will make sure that it is a fantabulous 2025. Till we meet again, God bless. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much.